get things configured. How's everybody else doing out there? It is crazy over here. It is pouring cats and dogs. Absolutely crazy. But it's been fun. It's I love weather like this. It's just it's a blast, you know, seeing just what nature can do, and the smell. Kind of hoping my garden's okay. I started a garden with my buddy who lives here. We're growing carrots and spinach, so nothing crazy, but I hope it's not getting pummeled or washed away. Yeah, they do love rain, which is nice because I was kind of worried that I was going to have to go try and water the garden tonight in the dark late at night when I get home. But nature has helped me out with this webinar and taking care of it. I think I'm all good. Ooh, 35 degrees in Minnesota. Ouch. So yeah, I don't. Some of you might know that I spent about 11 months in Denver, and I had a good time up there. But it was really kind of funny because I was born and raised in Arizona, so I'm used to not having any kind of weather, basically hot and then kind of cold sometimes. And we would get rainstorms, but when I wanted to move out of Arizona, I wanted to try something really, really different. And so Colorado was definitely going to be different like that. And we got all sorts of weather. In fact, I just saw a buddy of mine posted on Twitter that it went from 70 degrees to 30 degrees and snowing, like clear, sunshiny one day and snowy the next. And it was true. I was living proof of it and going through it. And it's my mom and dad are up in Washington. And my mom would, since I moved there, was starting to watch the weather in the newspaper. She'd text me and call me. She's like, your weather down there is crazy. I don't know how you're doing with it. I hope you have enough clothing. I did have to buy clothing when I moved from Arizona to Denver because I did not have anything ready for that. Oh yeah, you're out noisy? I bet it is nice. It's really getting nice here in Austin as well. A little humid, but I hear that's good for the skin complexion. So the women tell me. Maybe it's bad for the hair though, I don't know. All right, guys, well, should we get going? Enough of the excitement, get that drum roll and all that. But thanks again for everybody here. Looks like a real fantastic class. Thank you, everybody. And there will be some questions afterward or answers that I can give you afterward if you want. So stick around. Let me know what you have. Every once in a while I'll be looking over, seeing if there's anything pertinent that I can answer during the presentation because I'll see if you guys ever experienced some of the things that I've experienced on my path. Brian, yeah, my parents are in Washington State, so specifically Gig Harbor, which is just west of Tacoma. Maybe not everybody knows about Gig Harbor. Yeah, the bridge connecting it was the famous Galloping Gertie from Gig Harbor to Tacoma. And now there are two of them, but they don't gallop anymore. Probably a good thing. All right, so thank you, everybody. This is the Moxie method, and really how to generate 10 to 200% returns, even if you're new to trading. And again, I'm very, very excited to be getting into this. Basically, the gloves are off. I'll be able to show you guys everything, and we'll kind of get into that, and it's going to be fun. And then, yeah, who am I? So for some of those who haven't heard of me yet, Moxie Trader, TG Watkins, I just want to kind of put this up here. I know last time John led with this as well. It's just so that we can kind of, so to speak, put the money where the mouth is, right? I just want to let you know that of my success, that I have been able to do this kind of stuff, and I have gotten someplace. This is even my IRA account. You can see where it started back in April 2018. $67,000, and then in May, I had to get the pay statements correct, but $125,000, that's 86% gain. And then I had a little bit of a boost into June, and I wanted to capture that. So here was a screenshot for that one, $136,000. It's 103% gain in just over a year. So it's a little something just to get things going, let you know who am I. And for you, this presentation is going to be if you want consistent profits from stocks. I'm primarily a stock trader, so I just like to know how charts move, how the price action is, and just make really good technical support, technical technicians type stuff. That's what I like to do. And then with a simple proven checklist to follow. I don't know if you guys ever have something like that, but I like to work with that kind of stuff, just really A, B, C, D. And then, of course, this is for you even if you've never been profitable before, because we're trying to give you the right tools and information how to help out with all of that. And what you'll discover tonight is how I reliably generate 10 to 200% gains on what I call Moxie stock trades. And we'll get into that later, but yeah, just Moxie. We want something that's got a lot of gusto, a lot of oomph to it. And then how I target powerful short-term pops and drops for extraordinary results. And the drops, I put that in there because that really is just as important as the pops. You know, we all want price to go up. We all want that stuff. That's what we're trying to do, because we really just want to, you know, have it go long and make money on that. But what's just as important is knowing when the market is going to drop, you know, or the individual ticker that we're looking at is going to drop, you know, because it can sometimes be easy to make money, but we need to make sure we keep that money, and making sure we know when the drop is going to happen is very important. And then also how I get into the right stocks at the right time, of course, seeking to avoid bad trades. I mean, what do they say? Like, that's the number one thing to do is make sure you try and limit your losses. And so my secret for these precise stock trades is exactly this. This is the same setup over and over and over. And for this one, just for this example, I call it it's the inverted trampoline move. You'll notice that this setup is exactly the same as this one. These are consistent setups, consistent moves, and consistent indications with the Moxie indicator that I use. And you can see these are the drops that I'm talking about. We need to know about this kind of stuff. And maybe even if you want to do bear trades or go short or do puts, you know, these things are important. And so you don't need to be a stock picking pro to do this. You know, there's a lot of information in this indicator, and you can target powerful props and drops with the checklist that I use. Again, like we'll kind of get into that a little bit later. I'm sure some of you are kind of familiar with that. And the key to this is the fact that I can see the trades coming, that we can see the trades coming. The whole point is that you're looking at this and you can see that price has been going up and up and up, but look, it's doing it on less and less energy. And you can see it here too, up and up and up, and less energy until it finally goes negative and goes negative. But we'll get into that a little bit further. And so again, the secret is about these consistent Moxie setups. You know, I just showed you two. Here's a third one. Those were on the S&P hourly. How about the S&P daily? You know, this applies to multiple time frames, and you can see same setup. And right here, it's the inverted trampoline move that I love as far as, you know, the downside or protecting. And as I say, you know, consistent Moxie setups or warnings. It's a warning. It's very, very important. So if you guys don't want to go short, or you want to just make sure you're protected and not get into a bad trade, a warning is very important as well. So what I do is I look beyond price. I know a lot of you know, big traders out there, and just kind of maybe the word on the street is that price is king. But a lot of times I kind of think that price is a facade, and I'm able to see past price. I'm able to see what's really going on inside. And through my analysis of the data, I'm able to consistently see when a stock is likely to pop or drop, as I've been talked about. Well, my method has allowed me to grow my account over 103% in a little over a year. And that's how I catch big moves like these. So some of you who've been with the Moxie program a bit, you'll recognize here that Snapchat. And we were kind of watching this one, and you can see that the indicator been trending down, even though price has been trending up. And right here, it's the inverse trampoline move again, right? And look what we got. We were able to nail it right there, got it right there and before earnings. And it was 16% on the short side in 15 days. Pretty good. And again, I don't do this by sitting in front of the computer all day. I'm an end-of-day trader. So in fact, it just takes me minutes a day. And you'll see how it's possible to get into the right stocks at the right time and avoid these bad trades. And here's actually a real recent one. Again, some of you, maybe here, you've been seeing some of the trades I've been doing. This is INMD. You can actually look at your own charts right now and see exactly this. And look, there's the Moxie price trigger right there. So this is the point that I'm getting at, is we can actually see when things are going to start to set up, you know, when momentum and energy starts to go positive. And we can see these things happen before maybe anybody else. And look what happened. 3 days, basically straight up 19%. Fantastic. And so, you know, again, this is just kind of a little bit of the proof is in the pudding. I want to show you that this has been working for me. So this is just a snapshot of all the accounts that I manage, starting back in July 2017. You can see that it started 120,000, and then a year later, July 2018, 203,000, and then just this last July 2019, 517,000. So this little section was pretty good. Of course, we're trying to enjoy strong returns year after year without being a stock picking pro. And then the objective of any trader really is to get the net liquidity of our account to go from the bottom left to the upper right. I mean, we want to see our stocks do that. We want to see our account do that, right? And of course, any tick down should kind of be small, but it happens. You guys can see right here, the end of 2018, well, happens to the best of us. But look, got it right back and started right back. So looking pretty good. So a little bit about my path. My dad introduced me to the stock market as a kid. I didn't really know much about it. I just knew that this was something important and that I was being exposed to it. And with my dad telling me like, hey, this is something you should be doing. This is something I do. I'm like, all right, fine. I know that this is important, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do about it. And so funny enough, when I was 12, my dad actually took me to my first stock trading seminar. And I'm sure a lot of you have been to something similar like this, out to a seminar, got a lot of people in there. I mean, what's the average age out there? Maybe nowadays we're getting some younger people in there with the technology and all that, but I mean, really, have you ever seen a kid in something like this? I mean, if you did, they probably think they're bouncing off the wall because they're bored out of their minds. Well, again, I knew that this was kind of something important, and so I was trying my best to try and pay attention and figure out what was going on. But I do remember at the time, just like this, they had stuff up on the screens. They were doing something like Fibonacci shells and circles and radiuses, and I couldn't even pronounce the word Fibonacci at the time, but I just knew that I should try my best to pay attention. So anyway, during one of these segments, when the presenter kind of went off and we got some time to talk to him kind of off presentation, I said, is this really possible? Can people make money from doing this, whatever this is, and stock trading? And this just seems like it's all made up. And he said, well, of course. No one was born knowing how to trade. And he said, I didn't know at the time. And I said, I didn't know at the time, but this is one of those important phrases that really stuck with me to help me later in life when things maybe got a little bit tough, as we're trying to go through this and figure out how we're doing this. And so I just said, you're right. We were not born knowing how to trade. And so we had to kind of learn how to do this kind of thing. So let me take a little minute. So it's been raining out there. I had to hurry up, and so I'm a little thirstier. All right, so my interest shaped my trading style. I graduated from ASU Polytechnic, which is in East Mesa in Arizona, with a manufacturing engineering degree in 2010. And so that's my mindset. I'm an engineer. I like to know how things work, nuts and bolts. I like to build things. And then I really sidestepped, and I went into New York Life as a financial advisor, and I got my Series 6 and 63. And with that, I wanted to help people with their finances, with their money, learning how to do things, and actually help them with their retirement. And from there, my dad and I are pilots, and so trading is kind of like flying. It's really important to know the discipline and how to fly, because if you are reckless with your discipline, you're going to not know how to do your checklist, and of course, it's going to be bad for your account. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so as I was saying, I'm a pilot. It's really important to know the discipline. And if you don't have that discipline, it's going to really kind of be reckless. You're not going to know what you're doing, and you're going to be kind of killing your account. And it's really important to know that even as a pilot. And so how to trade like a pilot. There are a lot of similarities with trading. We got the checklist, which is basically your process. You want to make sure you have your A and your B and your C and know how to actually go through this. And the same thing goes with your trading. You want to know what you're actually looking for. And then when you have that, when you know what you're looking for, these setups, the A, the B, and the C, you can then go back and fall back on your rules. And with your rules, you need to know what it is actually that you're trading. And with the trading, you need to be able to stick to that. So what it comes all full circle is with the discipline. And so the discipline that it takes to be a pilot and to be, sorry guys, we're getting lightning out here and things are kind of flickering in the office. So sorry about that. But anyway, I'm kind of getting lost about here as far as the discipline. We have our checklist. We need to make sure that if we're flying, we don't put up the flaps before we take off, or that we put up the landing gear before we take off. We have things that need to go in order. And then with trading with the rules, we need to make sure that we're not going to be going long when we should be going short, right? So that's kind of the thing that we need to know what it is about our rules. And then the discipline is to actually stick to that kind of stuff. That's the whole point. Because if we're not sticking to our discipline, then we're really just going to be doing emotional trading. And now we're just throwing money all over the place, and we don't really have a process, and we don't have the discipline to stick to the checklist or stick to the rules. And all of these are vital to keeping the plane and your account from crashing and burning. So very important. A lot of this stuff from being a pilot and the thing that I grew up doing was really very relevant to my stock trading. And so why I love the trading lifestyle. So I don't know if everybody knows this. I was kind of talking about it earlier, but I moved to Denver basically 5 days after my 33rd birthday. And I just wanted to kind of do it just to try it out. I was born and raised in Arizona. I've been a lot of places, but I never lived someplace else. And so the trading gave me the freedom to be able to just, up and move. I didn't have to worry about a job. I didn't have to worry about transferring someplace and doing, figuring out what I was going to do about that. The trading and the knowledge that I had was able to come with me. And so here I am sitting on the, I guess the sun deck of the apartment building that I had, reading Trading in the Zone, and it was great. So Mark Douglas, I really recommend it. And then I was able to get up there and actually do some whitewater rafting. And then being an Arizona boy, I'd never learned how to ski, and so I was able to spend some time up there and actually learn how to ski. And now I've got some skis sitting in my closet here in Austin trying to figure out what I'm going to do with those. And so spending time your way. You can forget the 9-to-5 grind. Now, I do like it. I really wanted to be here and join Simpler so I could turn around and actually take my experience and take my abilities and turn around and help more people. But I can do it from afar, and I can do it on the hours that I have. So this was a couple of pictures from me up over the summer. My sister just had a baby. I think she's about 15 months now, and she's real cute. She's a real darling. So I'm going to be actually going to get up there this December to spend some time with them and get to hang out with them. And, I get to do that for Christmas, and I don't have to worry about, taking vacation time necessarily, because my job can come with me as far as that goes. And I think that a lot of you out there, this is very important as well. I think for you that you want to do this for your family or be around your family or have the free time and the ability to stick with them and to spend time, not have to, do all this necessarily overtime and whatnot. So that's kind of been really important to me, and I'm sure it's important to a lot of people out there. But what if you don't have an edge? I understand that it's hard to grow your account. Maybe you can't find the right trades, or maybe you're missing out or getting in too late. And I understand that. Like, I've been through this stuff. I had to learn how to trade. I had to learn how to do this, because remember when I was there in the seminar that it was no one's born knowing how to do this kind of thing. And so the struggle is real. Stocks move up and down for all sorts of reasons that can't really be seen through price. We had the Fed meetings, we have news, we have tweets, we have tweets. We have a lot of tweets. So, we got all these things, but for the most part, there are ways to get around that. There are ways to make sure that this stuff kind of works and that we can still trading. The key takeaway, though, that we have to do with this is that the market is always right, and we just have to figure that out. And so the big leap, which for me was the struggle that I faced when I finally decided to leave corporate finance, and I wanted to go out and do this on my own. And I could have gone into aviation or engineering, both things that I really love to do, but I decided to really take the trading route because of the freedom and the ability to leverage my time. And that was something that really attracted me to this. And I wanted to figure out how to do that. And that was the next big something that was for me that I wanted to learn and become good at. And so I spent years studying these squiggly lines that made no sense to my brain and to my eyes. I just couldn't find a consistent reason why price was moving the way it moved. And so this one always kind of cracks me up when I show it. But one of my mentors, or one of the people that I knew who was teaching out there, his charts really looked like this. I mean, it's all over the place. I couldn't tell what was going on. I couldn't tell what was up, what was down. I mean, somewhere in there, sure, there is price, but I can't even see what's going on. Hey, I can't blame him too much. He made good money. He was able to teach other people, and it worked for some of them. But for me, this just didn't work, and it wasn't anything that I could do. And so I had to kind of figure out my own way around this. And so I started looking at this. I said, well, why with this one? Why did this stock go down when it came into that moving average? Why did this one go up? Not that one of these was a correct trade or a wrong trade, but each trade was a winner in its own way. We just had to know which direction it was going to go. And so it was a very long learning curve that I had, and that's what I'm trying to help is say, take all these lessons that I have, and I really wanted to figure out, well, what are we going to do to shortcut this and apply it to other people? And so maybe you got into a good trade like this, from suffering from chronic losses. You get into a good trade, but then something happens and it just breaks instantly, even though it was a good entry, and then it just kind of fell and came right back down to zero. Or maybe it's like treading water. You keep picking stocks that basically just don't go anywhere. And trust me, I've suffered from this. Like, you get in maybe around here and it goes up and it comes right back down. Maybe you got out. and then you try and get in, it just doesn't go anywhere and it comes back down again. I mean, you're just treading water, and it's basically the time value of money. It's important to make sure that you get into something that really is going to work. Otherwise, your money was better off doing something else and making that kind of percentage. And of course, the percentage for, or the potential for wipeout, right? How many of you guys have ever experienced something like this? I mean, we try our darndest to avoid this, but it is the stock market. It is a little bit crazy. And, you know, we just, we do our best to do this, but it happens to the best of us. Now, I know earnings is kind of like that number one something, but trust me, I try to avoid that, but I've got some ways that we can work around this, and that's some of the stuff that I want to be able to show you. So, trial and a lot of error. I know it was a slow death by 1,000 small losses for me, and obviously there are some large losses in there too, but I tried just about everything. I couldn't find a simple, objective way to make profitable trades. So this one always kind of, I like this one too, because I was just as confused as, say, some of you were. Like when we started looking at this, you know, my friends kind of call it the squiggly lines, but if you've ever seen the movie The Matrix, and when you're in the Matrix and you come out of it, it's a giant computer code. You don't really know what you're looking at. You don't know how to read it. It's just a bunch of letters and numbers and coding. And that's kind of what trading looked like to me. It was a bunch of squiggly lines. Like I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what to see and how to transfer it. And so what I needed to do is I just needed to keep looking at these things and figure out what was going on. And so over a course of time, I was able to realize that there were some patterns that were starting to set up. And after I spent a lot of time looking at this kind of stuff, I realized that I could figure things out. And so looking at the movie, there was a main character called Neo, and he was able to see these patterns and see and read the matrix and figure out exactly what it was that he could do and how to interpret it and how to actually see people and what to do with the matrix. And I feel like nowadays, that's me. I can actually see some of these patterns setting up, and I can read the matrix. And so the engineer in me started going back and reverse engineering all these moves to figure out how they started to move before they exploded. So if you remember those stock charts I just showed, you can see here where price bounced off of that moving average. Well, I needed to figure out why that did that. And what I learned is that if I look lower, if I go to a lower time frame chart, you could start seeing a little bit of clarity like that. Here you can see the double bottom, and you can see the Moxie indicator start to actually trend up. And then what you can see is price actually coming into the hourly 50, and then you actually get the Moxie price trigger. And so this was a little insight that I could look a little bit deeper below and start seeing a little bit further indication that this, in fact, was going to be supported by that moving average. And then when I get into this one, like you can see price coming into that moving average. Well, if I go one lower and I look at this, and I can see that price is starting to get kind of rejected and get trapped under these moving averages and not look very good. And you can see here that it was, the Moxie indicator was basically under zero the whole time. So these things were starting to tell me what was going on and which way price was likely to go. And so then, of course, I had to figure out like what didn't work for me. And of course, my friends always called them the squiggly lines, but basically not enough precision. The fact that a lot of indicators are really just lines or lines or a combination of the two, it just didn't work for me. And going back to that one chart where I showed the guy who's making money, but his chart was just crazy, I just couldn't figure out what was going on with him. And so I needed to figure out what didn't work for me so that I could take all that and compile something into what did work for me as far as the indicator and the method. And so here are my charts. This is an exact example of what it is that I look at for my charts. And what you'll maybe notice first off, you know, clean and simple. If you see all of my actual tick charts, they're all grayed out. I really don't care about what the green and the red, whatever. I just want to know where price is in relation to the moving average. And then you can see the indicator down here below. And what that is, it's stair steps. Now I know maybe to the first image right here, it looks more like those squiggly lines I was talking about. But what you'll notice is that they're actually stair-stepped. And kind of like how a picture says 1,000 words, it's the same thing. There is a lot of information in these stair steps, and whether they're smooth or whether they start to get large and big steps like that. So there's a transition of energy and momentum. And then the positive negative area. Very simple. I got a gray line here, and I got positive energy and negative energy. and then divergences. And I know divergences is kind of a buzzword out there as far as stock trading and indicators, but it really is something important. You can see, like right here, you can see that price is going down and the Moxie indicator is starting to go up. And that's telling us that there is internal pressure starting to push up on this thing and that we need to be careful about that, especially if we're trying to go long or if we're in a short trade like that. And then kind of going back to the whole thing of, we see things before others. You can see here price has been flat, but the indicator kept going up and up and up, telling me that, most likely this thing is going to go up. And then going to precision, here are the Moxie price triggers. You can see right there. And then what came next? Big move up. You can see here's a red one. What happened next? Price just went down, didn't go anyplace. How about this one? Moxie price trigger to the upside, and then it took off. So these are all the things that started to come together for me and actually make my trading work. And so behind the curtain, you ever wonder what's going on inside of a stock? I mean, we see price, but what's really happening inside? What's really happening with that energy and that momentum? And you want to see what's going on with the true energy of that stock. Well, what does this tell you? I'll kind of show you real quick about those divergences. So price has been going down, but look how the indicator doesn't want to go down any further. That's a form of positive divergence. So I'm looking at something like this, realizing that, at some point this thing wants to pop up. And you can see right there that it does. And then you can see price comes back down, does a double bottom. Now, is that double bottom going to hold or is it going to fail? Well, look at this. We got our positive divergence. So most likely I'm looking at this saying, no, this thing wants to go up. And then the same thing, my bread and butter trade, the trampoline move right there. Price dip below. The reason I call it a trampoline is because it's down and up. So all of these come together to form the kind of thing that I trade and how I can actually see inside of price, inside of a stock. Now, what if you had a trading checklist? Now, I don't know if many of you know, but this is kind of one of those ubiquitous things that we don't really think about. But the idea of a checklist actually had to be invented. And it was invented back in the late 1930s by the Boeing Aircraft Corporation when a couple of really good test pilots crashed on takeoff trying to test a B-17. And they realized that it was a simple mistake, that if they had just figured out, like airplanes were starting to get more complicated than the average human, even the great minds could handle to get these things started and up in the air. And so they realized that if they had just invented a list of procedures that needed to be done before you took off, or before you start the engine, or before you land, or before you stop the airplane, that then they would make sure that they didn't miss anything like that simple mistake that caused them to lose their lives. And so trading is kind of the same thing. So being a pilot, I kind of took that idea and said, I think I need a checklist, because I was making some stupid, silly mistakes that if I had just had this procedure, I wouldn't have made it. And so this was one of my first trading checklists, kind of a flow chart, but it basically does the same thing. And so, what if you guys had a checklist? And this is something we can get into a little bit later and that I talked about with the Moxie method. And so I set out to build that checklist. And I realized I needed to build that trading checklist from all the data that I had gathered. And of course, the pilot in me felt right at home. And I started to begin to catch these lucrative trades more consistently. So this is actually a recent example with mRNA. And you can see here, there's the Moxie price trigger, and then there's a trampoline move, and then price got over the 50, and look, it followed the 50 all the way up until you get right there where it broke the 50, and you get the Moxie price trigger to the downside. Great trade, 33% gain. And so I feel like I had my edge. I was finally able to see the opportunity to make money where others didn't, like this, Neo. Kind of an older one, but I love this one because it shows that you could see this thing starting to build up. And then you could see right there the line where I got in. You could see it here also on the 15-minute. Price started to get scooped up by that moving average, and the Moxie indicator was looking great. And then what happened next? You can see the Moxie price trigger, and this thing just went vertical. And then I also have a trading checklist to help me on the way out. And then you can see I got out right there. I mean, this thing was only a few days, and I nabbed 33% on that one. So I had my edge. And what I had discovered is that I had built a reliable method for knowing when a stock was likely to pop or drop. And remember, knowing when it's going to drop is just as important too. And this allowed me to leverage that reliability with minimal risk and time invested. And so cashing in. You need to know when to take your money and run, basically. How many times have we had a good trade only to have it turn on us and give it all back? So knowing when to cash in is just as important. So something like this with Yeti, you can see there's the Moxie price trigger. let it incubate for a little bit. You can see here is our more recent one, and then it just popped and went straight up. And the rules that I had said, look, this thing is overbought. You need to cash in, and that's what I did. And then a little bit later, you can see here's the Moxie price trigger to the downside, or at least to the exit. And then here's another one, Survey Monkey. You can see once again, Moxie price trigger right into the moving average, and then boom. And then I let it settle down for a little bit, and then I got out here, and then you can see that you got the Moxie price trigger to the downside as well. And then VFC. So, you know, they're not all going to be like massive winners like that. You take what you can, and that's what the checklist helps you do. And this one you can see Moxie price trigger, price got into the 50 moving average on that, and then I got out. Now this one only happened to be a little bit over 9%, but that's all this thing had because what came next? You can see there's the Moxie price trigger for the exit, and then it just fizzled and failed and kept going down and down and down. And so if you didn't take your 10% because of what the rules and the checklist say, then you would have given it all back, and you know, now you're not a happy camper. And of course, they don't always all work out right. You know, here's another recent one. This one was Goose. I saw a situation. Here's the Moxie price trigger. I was looking for price to stay above that moving average. Well, the stock had a different idea, and so I got out, or at least my stop was right below that moving average where it needed to stay above if this thing was going to work out. 3% loss, no big deal. Losses are normal. They're just the cost of running this business that we call trading. And you really have to think of it as inventory, as utilities and employees. I mean, they're just costs. But losses must be controlled just like those expenses. And you do that by having the very short losses, tight losses, and tight parameters, because you need to know if it's going to work or not work. You're either in and it's working, or you're out because it's not. And that's part of what my rules are and the checklist. Here's another one, MDB. You can see here, I like to wait till after earnings. Here's the Moxie price trigger, and then this thing just took off. I wanted to see if it had a little bit more in it because my rules were saying stay in, but it didn't. And you can see right here, broke the moving average. There's the Moxie price trigger to the exit. You can see we also had negative divergence on the indicator. So I got out, 12%. Now Okta, here's one of the times that I was able to phase out of it. And that was kind of the way that the rules and the checklist were going for me. You can see here's the Moxie price trigger. You can also see where price was able to get over the moving average and find that support. And then right here, my checklist said, well, you need to take some of it off. So I took some of it off, and sure enough, within a day or two, price dipped down. Now, maybe some of you who are pretty astute, you'll see that this is actually a trampoline move, but I'll get into that a little bit later. And then up again. Now with this big move, my checklist said, yeah, you probably need to get out and take the rest of the money. It did end up moving just a little bit, but ultimately there's the Moxie price trigger and then dipped back down. And then Yeti, here's another one. So if you guys look at your own charts, maybe after the show, here's Yeti doing a 13% gain, and I think there's more to come. You can see right here, Moxie price trigger, staying above the moving average, and then it actually broke through this moving average, which was its resistance, and what it do? Straight up like that. So I think that there's more in this. Just be aware that earnings is coming up, but I do like this one, 13% so far. So the word started to spread about the success, about these kind of trades that I was making. You know, my account began to grow. My friends and family started to hear about my success. You know, my friends heard that I was having a good time. They didn't really hear my numbers or anything, but my family heard the numbers and saw what I was doing. And so my mom one day called me and said, well, I think we were just kind of talking, but she's like, you know, I got a couple $1,000s just sitting in accounts that's not really doing anything. Do you want to help me with it? Do you want to trade it? I was like, ooh, sure, okay, you know, because if anything goes wrong, she's still my mom. She's still probably going to love me, and you know, if I lose her money, she'll be like, well, okay, you're still my son. So I was like, all right, maybe I'll just play that card. But April 2018 started just about $6,000 that you can see there, and it was during this time that I had my best Moxie stock. That's what I call it. And you can see that I was able to grow my mom's account from 6,000 to 20,000. Now, this one stock was not the one that got it from 6 to 20, but boy, it sure helped, right? So let me kind of just walk you through this and see how it worked. First of all, you can see the Moxie price trigger right there, right? So I got in. It was also above the moving averages that I like to use. So I got in. Now, promptly after I got in, this thing pulled back. But I was thinking, okay, you know, this is an IGC. This is a cannabis stock. It's a cheapo, you know, $1, $2, $3. And so that was kind of a large pullback percentage wise for me. I was like, oh man, you know, did I do this right? But I had to stay in because my checklist said I got to stay in. And so I did. I let it kind of percolate for a little bit, and then it started to pick up. And once I saw this thing pick up again, I was like, you know what? I think I'm pretty right about this thing. So I added more. And that was my second entry right there. And then you can see it started to take off, and then it started to pop. And my checklist said, yeah, you need to take some of this off. And so I took some of it off right there at the high. And I was like, okay, I've at least paid for the trade, even if this thing implodes at that point. And so I let it go for a little bit longer, and then it went up and up and up, and it just went vertical. And so with my first exit of 144%, and that's like, now I got that thing, you know, at least locked in a little bit. The next one at this thing going vertical was 257%, and this was just a matter of days. I don't know if anybody remembers this stock back in the day, but legit, that's what was happening. And so I really took the majority of my trade off at that point because I was like, I don't know what this thing is going to do. This is one of the best stocks I had. I don't know how much better this is going to be. Let's just take it. So I took the majority of it off after that, and I left a little piece on to see, well, what's going to happen after that. Sure enough, it started to implode and cave in. And I said, look, I've had a good time. Let me just take the rest of it off. So I took the rest of it off with 231% on that. So that was my best trade back in the day with that. Now, helping others, you know, this was my mom's account. I had other accounts that I was trading that were doing pretty well, but I was able to turn my mom's account from 6,000 into 20,000 in less than a year. I mean, what was it, April to February? And this was very exciting. It was very exciting and rewarding, and it really felt good. I was like, okay, all this stuff that I've been doing, all the hair that I've pulled out is actually doing something. And this kind of is where I bring it back around to you guys. Like, what are you doing all this trading for? What are we here for? What are we studying for? What are we having the frustrations for sometimes? You know, is it for your family? Is it for you? Is it for your future? Is it for your kids' future? Is it for maybe a charity that you want to leave for afterward? I actually know a trader who said, yeah, my kids will get some of this, but I'm really going to be leaving it to this charity afterward. And we just have to find our why and find our purpose for doing this, because that's what's really going to carry us through when the times get tough. And so you can see from 6,000 to 20,000 was a 233% gain. And my mom was redoing her kitchen up there in Seattle at the time. I said, hey, so your account's doing pretty well. Do you want to use some of it for your kitchen? And sure enough, she did. So that's myself and her taking a picture in front of the kitchen that she just remodeled. And so why reinvent the wheel? You know, it's taken me a long time to do this, to kind of teach myself and figure out how I want to do this, learn from others. I did learn some tips and tricks, but what I'm trying to say is I've got a fully fledged thing that works for me, and I hope that it works for you all. And so I want you guys to be able to shortcut some of these years that I've spent studying and making these profitable stock patterns. And really it comes down to patterns and with the extra insight with the Moxie indicator. And then you don't have to go through the growing pains of designing this indicator, refining it, and figuring out how it works, because I had to actually design it. And then once I had it and I think I had something going, I then actually had to go back and teach myself how to use it and figure out the rules of the indicator I actually invented myself. And that's what I had to figure out. And then I got the scanners. I figured, okay, now I know what I'm looking for. I know what the opportunities and the things that I want to do with it. Now I need to figure out, well, how do I find those except for, you know, scrolling through 1,000 stocks per day? And so then that's where I had to design and build the scanners to find my bread and butter trades, the price triggers and the trampoline moves. And so this is all the stuff that I want to be able to provide for you guys. And so if you like what you've seen so far, for the first time, yeah, for the first time, as many of you know, that's kind of where everyone's been very excited about this presentation here, I'm offering the Moxie indicator. My goal is to help you pick the precise stock trades without having to stare at the market all day. Remember, I'm an end-of-day trader, and so that's what I like to do. And so I want to be able to give you the Moxie method and help you identify objective entries and exits, and use my proven checklist to target 10 to 200% gains and avoid these false signals as much as possible. So here it is, the Moxie method. And we're going to be doing the strategy class on November 2nd, which is going to be next Saturday. It's going to be a nice deep dive. It's going to be 4 hours. It's going to be from noon to 4. And then within it, we're also going to be doing some live trades. So that's going to be later. You can see that live trading down here, November 4th, 7th, and 12th. But this is the thing. This is what everybody's kind of been waiting for. And so I'm finally proud to actually say, hey, guys, it's here. This is why I'm doing the webinar. I want to let you guys know it's out there. And finally, you can own it for yourself. And here's what it looks like. The basic package, $497, and we got what it includes is the strategy class. So that's going to be the 4-hour class where we go doing the deep dive. You guys can ask me questions. I got a whole presentation about all the ins and outs of it. It's going to be great. I mean, I've been itching to really do this. I really wanted to get this out there and say, let me show everybody what it is I do. And then you have the Moxie indicator. You guys are going to have it. It's yours. So that's a huge value right there as in itself. All right, that's a big deal. And then as a bonus, I'm going to be giving you those scans because it's one thing to have the indicator and use it for your trading, but we're trying to find those things that make it the Moxie stock and make it a good Moxie trade. I want to make sure that you guys actually have it and can go find the things that are setting up right now and actually gearing up. So I want you to have that. Now you can upgrade. And I got to say, of course, I think it's going to be the better one, but the Pro package, you get all those things. You get the strategy class, you get the Moxie indicator, and you get the scans for Thinkorswim. And don't worry, if you guys don't have Thinkorswim, I don't think it costs anything to actually sign up for Thinkorswim, and I highly recommend it. I mean, this has been part of the thing about why it's been taking us some time, because we had to get some ducks in a row and get some things lined up for Thinkorswim, but I love that trading platform. It really is pretty good. And so if you don't have it, don't worry about it. It doesn't cost anything. You just get it, load it. You can try the free version, whatever. It's great, and they're great people over there. But the Pro package, you get 3 days of live trading with me, and that's really where I think the kicker is coming in, because for as much as you can see the class and you can learn it, sometimes it really helps to ask questions when things are really happening and say, well, what about this? And what about that? And what do we need to look at this? Because that's, looking at past trades is one thing, but actually living those trades is another. And so just as a couple of examples about the power of the Moxie indicator, we want to avoid getting suckered into these bad trades as much as possible. So look at this one, and just to get a little tidbit about this. Notice here on the bottom that the Moxie indicator the whole time is below the 0 line. What that's telling me is that a long trade is the furthest thing on my mind. It's the last thing I'm thinking about. Even though price might be coming in here wanting to bounce and maybe something's looking good, oh, that wants to take off? No. The Moxie indicator, unlike any other indicator that I've ever seen, helps me avoid getting into bad trades. It shows me these false positives. Even though the chart, remember, charts, the price is king, but I really think it's kind of a facade. It looks like this thing wants to take off at some points, but the Moxie indicator underneath is telling me, no, this is not ready. Energy is negative. Not going to happen. Like, careful, So it keeps me away from bad trades and keeps me from being fooled into bad trades. Like, I can see things that other people can't out there. And coming back to this one, remember the potential for wipeouts. This goes back to that inverse trampoline move. The biggest thing that I love, one of my best bread and butter setups and trading methodologies, whether it's to make sure I don't get suckered into a bad trade, because look at this. Wouldn't you normally think that, if we look, say, before right here, doesn't this look like that should be a good trade? It got back over the moving averages, wants to get going. But the key is that the Moxie indicator here is telling us, no, that's a problem. And so one way we could look at this and say, this could be a really good short, and it's going to load up and let's have a good time with it. Or, if you're trading IRA, can't go short, whatever, maybe you're in this, it'll keep you out of it. It'll help prevent you from getting into something like this. It is a great thing for me, and it makes sure that I don't get into something bad and just have the bottom fall out from underneath me and have this stock collapse on me and really just damage my account. And Moxie has one of those best methods for seeing that coming. And as I said, I call it the inverse trampoline move, kind of for obvious reasons, right? And so the Moxie checklist. How would you like to have standard rules that don't change? And this actually reminds me when my dad and I were, when I was younger and we were trying to learn how to trade, we were kind of trading S&P futures, the E-mini, and we were learning from a guy. And obviously, I'm sure he was able to make money and all this stuff. And we were diligent. We were diligent. I was listening to him. We were following his stuff, watching his webinars. We had his indicators. And no joke, every week or two, he came out with a tweak. Basically, it was new, but he said it was a tweak on his rules or his indicator, and it kept changing. And I finally, after months of this, I said, Dad, how are we supposed to trade if if the things we're supposed to be learning and looking for constantly change, like how are we supposed to do this? We can't keep, this setup doesn't work all the time. And now he's come up with a new something. Oh, this new dot changed. Oh, we're supposed to like look for 2 dots instead of 3 dots. It was mind boggling and really maddening. And so I've got the checklist. I've got the rules. I've got the process. They don't change. It's the same thing over and over and over. And that's what we're looking for. And so we want precise, objective entry and exit criteria. That's what we're looking for. And the whole point of this is that when you're finished with the class, and once you've gone through this with me, and once I teach you and I show you the rules and you have the checklist, we can look at a chart like this, and you will be able to annotate it and dissect it the same way that I do right here. You will be able to see, oh, I see a double bottom. If I can draw straighter, you can see there's a double bottom. You can see that there's positive divergence. Okay, I've seen that. I know what I'm looking for. Then you can see that price is starting to get over that moving average, and you can see the Moxie price trigger. And now you're starting to key in on this, and you're like, okay, I've gotten this. Now I know what to do. And so we should be able to objectively look at this and say, here is an entry. And then you let it go, go, go. And then you can say, okay, either I want to get in on a second turn or maybe add more, because what is this? It's a trampoline move, right? And these are the things. Once I teach you all this and you see this, and I show it to you, you'll be able to see the same thing too. It'll be like the Matrix. You'll be able to read the Matrix like I can see this. And it's gonna really be quite empowering. And that's my whole point, is I want to be able to empower you all to be able to do your own thing. That's our whole shtick, is take your financial future and take your financial life into your own hands. And so my checklist helps you do this. It's designed to help you get these consistent results. Let me get there we go. And so another couple things. Why own Moxie? 3 reasons. 1, more control of your own trading. That's what I'm trying to get at. You know, as good as we are around here, I want to make sure that you guys can do your own thing and to take your own path and do your own stuff as far as your own trading. All right. That's the whole point of why we do this for trading. And then the other one, Moxie is a tool. It complements your own trading style. You know, maybe you've got a couple gadgets that you really like out there, but you see that there's a lot of power with this Moxie indicator and the method, and you want to start incorporating it into yours, and it might help turbocharge your method that works out well. Maybe it's that one thing that actually helps you really get more confident in this one trade, this one setup. Or maybe it's the thing that's going to help keep you out of something because you've been missing that one something that helps keep you out of a bad trade. And you know, a lot of people ask me, since this is simpler trading and the squeeze, does it work well with the squeeze? I love it with the squeeze. I mean, ever since I got here, I put the squeeze on my own charts. I love it because when a squeeze and the Moxie indicator set up, oh boy, you know, like back up the truck, right? It's great. So yes, it complements a lot of other indicators. And then of course you can use the Moxie on stocks, options, different time frames. So I'm primarily a stock trader. Maybe some of you guys are options traders. It works. It's fine. And how about different time frames? The method, the rules, the indicator, it works on multiple time frames. I love to blend my time frames. I'm not much of a day trader, but I can go down to those levels and I can talk about them. So I can help you guys figure out some day trading, some rules and methodology if you want to do that. You know, I'm capable of doing it. It doesn't work for me, but I can show you and I can talk to you about it, and I can give you those tips and those methods that will help you with those tradings for what you do. And this is why you should sign up for the pro, because then we can do that live trading. You know, I'll have kind of limited time with the class that I have, but in the live trading, you come in and I can show you these things. You know, I've had some people ask about, you know, can we look at the 2, the 5, and the 15 or so on the S&P? Absolutely. And I'll start pointing out to you what to look for. And then you can take all that and apply it to your own trading. So really, I think getting those 3 days of live trading really help, because then you can have your hands on it. You can have some experience. You can look at it. And then you can actually go back and start incorporating it and asking me those kind of questions. All right. So what about options? Sure, a lot of you, I know simpler trading, we're all about options around here. What about options? I don't personally trade options, but if you trade options, you can see how knowing where price will or won't go can offer really profitable strategies. And I say won't because there are often times where we want to know where price won't go, because you can set up an option strategy above or below where price won't go. It's great. You know, theta can be in our favor. You can have positive theta. You can sell, you know, calls and puts and things and get fancy like that. That's totally up to you. because if you see the Moxie indicator, you can start seeing with these rules and the checklist that I have, oh, okay, it shouldn't be going here and it's going to start turning around, and you can start selling, things below when you know it's going to turn around. So trust me, it's great. It works for it. And imagine, if I'm trading these kind of stocks where, because I'm a stock trader, I need good percentage. I need these things to really take off and move. Imagine 10, 20, 30%. I mean, heck, if IGC on a 200% gain had options, can you imagine what that would look like for an option leverage? So that's the kind of stuff that I can help you with. I'm a great technician. I can tell you where price is going to go and how to use it and what to look for. And that'll give you a bit of a roadmap and give you some technical levels of where things are going. And I'll teach you how to read the market. I mean, this is, when I started out with this, I really wanted to figure out, how does price move? How do these stocks do what they do? There's got to be a nuts and bolts thing to it. Remember, we're not born knowing how to trade. And so me as an engineer, I wanted to go out there and I wanted to reverse engineer this and say, well, how does this stuff work? There's an answer. I want to know that answer, and I got to figure this out. And so that's what I did, is I set out to study how the market works, whether it's the S&P, whether it's individual tickers, whether it's, gold ETFs. I just want to know, what are the rules that everybody else apparently knows out there that I don't know, and I need to start figuring this out. How do the institutions do what they do? And so I started to just look at this and study it and study it and study it, and I figured out some answers. I figured out how certain things move, and that worked for my eye. And so that's what I'm going to try and teach you guys, is how the market moves. Whatever kind of ticker we're looking at, I'll teach you how to read the market, and then if you want to, you can apply your own crazy trading strategies to it, and it'll be great, and we'll have a lot of fun with it. So here's what you get. Just to kind of circle back with it, you're going to get the Moxie indicator. That's the power. That's the thing. You're going to get the indicator, and you're going to get the Moxie scanner. You're going to get the ones that I love. It's going to be the trampoline moves and the Moxie price triggers. So that way we can find when these things are actually setting up and when they're ready to go. You're going to get the checklist. And trust me, it's like a 1.5 page checklist. It's pretty easy. In fact, I think it's probably like in 20 font size, so it's great. And you're going to get my trading rules. That way we make sure we know what we're looking for. How does this work versus how does this? What are we looking for? And these rules don't change. It's the same thing over and over and over, so you can start going back and learning it and figuring out what works for you. And then the glossary. Yeah, I've got some fun little names for certain things, and I like to describe them, so I want to make sure everybody understands the lingo that I use. And then you're going to get the strategy class, and that's the thing on November 2nd. And so really, that's a big deal. Come in November 2nd. That's the class. It's going to be a nice long 4-hour class. Probably take a couple water breaks and some snack breaks, and we can hang out together and we can go over this, and you'll be able to ask me questions, and I'm going to show you everything. It's going to be great. We're going to have a lot of fun. This is the thing that I've just been itching for. I really wanted to get this out there. This is the whole reason why I got into creating Moxie Trader and getting with Simpler Trading, because I wanted to be able to give a bigger platform and actually give back all the things that I've learned. There really were a lot of people that helped me get to where I am now. I've had some mentors. I've had people teach me, and it's my turn to kind of give it back to others, pay it forward a little bit. And then also, if you get the pro class, you get 3 days of live trading. And that's going to be where you can actually start asking questions now that you've got it in your hands, now that you've learned how to use it, and now you've started to apply it. I want to make sure that you actually get some of that follow-up training and can actually come back and ask me the questions to say, hey, now I've had my hands on it for a little bit, and I've been trying to do this. What did I do wrong, or what did I not understand? So I really think that's going to be, that's some really good value right there for the pro class to come back and say, hey, I need a little tune-up. I love what you did. I'm trying to apply it here. What am I doing? Or, maybe we can come back and we hear some really great stories about people and their success that they've had. Since I've been doing my own business with this before I was a Simpler, I definitely had people come back to me after a couple weeks and say, wow, this is amazing. You really helped me out, and now my account is doing well. No joke. So I get that all the time. Here's just a little snip of the Moxie scanner. Basically, you can see here, this is the Moxie trampoline scan, and this is in alphabetical order, so those are some that popped up over the last day. And then you get the Moxie indicator. So you get the price trigger for the scanner, and you get the trampoline move scanner. Once again, the basic package here, great value. Great value. Strategy class alone is going to be going for this. The indicator, it's potent. This is a good deal, guys. I'm hoping a lot of people take care of it, take me up on this, because I want to make sure it's in people's hands. And now I can actually help you with your own trading once you have this, because if anybody's seen me in the rooms, I talk about this all the time. It's how I trade, and I want to make sure that people can now join the conversation when I talk about how I trade. Now, here's another example. Here's GoGo. And again, going back to that thing with the checklist and the trading methodology, when we all look at this chart, by the end of the class, everyone is going to see the same thing. And that's the whole point. There are objective ways of looking at this. There's a solid, proven, over and over way of looking at this. And namely, you can see here, there's the Moxie price trigger. And then along with that, you can see that price started to stay over the moving average, and it was up and up and up and up. And then right here, that's where it broke. Objective. I mean, we're all going to be looking at the same thing. Now, honestly, GoGo is starting to set up again. And so those of you who are in the Moxie Mastery program, we're in this again. So go take a look at that and see maybe what you see through your own eyes. But really, the Pro package, I think, is where it's at, because I want to make sure that when you guys have this powerful tool in your hand, I want to make sure that you get all the support that you can, and that once you've had it in your hands for a little bit, you can come back, you can talk to me, and we can actually apply this to the real world and real life and what you've been doing over the course of time and what we have scheduled. That's why I said I want you to have some time with it, but November 4th, November 7th, and November 12th, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Central. So I just want to make sure everybody has a good time with it and it's doing well for them. And I want to make sure I have my hand out for you, helping you out, because that's what we're here for. All right, so then once again, with the Moxie stock method, you got the basic package. You're going to get the class, you're going to get the indicator, and then you're going to get the scans. Great deal. And then with the Pro package, as I said, you're going to get 3 days of live trading, and I highly recommend that. I want to help you guys out. I'm here for you, and I think that's where we can really get a lot of traction and come back and actually talk to me live and interactive, and we can answer your questions. So we'll kind of leave it on that. Let me take a little bit of a breather here. And I see that Mandy's been doing a great job answering a bunch of questions. So let me kind of take a look. Let me know if you have any particular questions. Maybe Mandy, if you send me a couple that I weren't able to answer. Dwight, yeah, it does help when to get out. I've got the checklist for knowing when to get out. I do like to use stops, so just in case anything goes wrong, you know, that's the stock market. You know, news comes out. I like to have that ejection seat, because no matter how good an indicator is, you know, things happen, and we need to make sure that there's an automatic get out. So I love using stops. It's important. Thank you, Charles. Yep, I've been hearing from a lot of guys, a lot of people out there. It's been fantastic. The class on November 2nd, let's see, it's noon to 4 Central Time. And yes, the indicator right now is only available on Thinkorswim as far as this public release. I would like to be working on some other things as far as that goes, but for right now, it's on Thinkorswim. Don't worry if you don't have it. It's free to get Thinkorswim. Maybe there's some details there, but it doesn't cost anything to actually have Thinkorswim. There's no monthly fee, nothing like that. And it's a great platform. I mean, I obviously, I think almost everybody here uses it. Maybe we use some other ones as well, but we all pretty much have Thinkorswim, and it's a fantastic platform. Ooh, Rose. So one caveat, I do not trade earnings. I like to avoid earnings like the plague. I see that you're asking about Amazon. I have not actually looked at Amazon. Let me take a look at this, and let's see, which way did it go, huh? Straight down. Ooh. Well, there are some things, and this is where I be honest about this. There are some times where there are indications of which way price will go for an earnings, but I do not rely on it because it is a crapshoot. For me, it's an absolute crapshoot, and so there are kind of some clues, but I don't like to roll that kind of dice. At that point, things are out of my hands, and I can't make an educated guess or bet or whatever about where earnings are going to go. But I have been kind of talking about where I think Amazon might actually be in trouble. And the Moxie indicator has been telling me that on things as high as the weekly time frame. So very important, I think, to have the indicator because it's telling you what's inside price, what's really going on inside price. All right, so one thing I do want to address, the indicator will not be released. So, sign up for it, grab it, get your spot, get in line, it'll be good. The indicator is not going to be released until Friday. And the reason we're going to be doing that is because I don't want you guys to be getting into trouble. I want to make sure that you get it, and then we are able to teach it. I want to show you, I got a tech support coming up. I want to make sure we have the class, but I don't want you guys to just not know what you're doing with it. And so that's why we're going to be releasing it just before the class. And I think that's a great way to do it. As I said, I want to take care of you all. I want to make sure you're armed and knowledgeable about what to do with it. And I just don't want you to be losing any money just because of misinterpreting something when we haven't gone through the class. So sorry to be a little bit cautious about that, but that's how I'd like to do that. I believe it'll work in demo account. I do know of one person that had a demo account a while ago, and I think it was fine. Yeah, I don't think there are any problems with that. Debbie, thank you. Really appreciate it. Glad you all stayed here. That was a good-sized class, and I'm sure even more people are going to be checking out the recording. So I've been getting a lot of buzz about this, and I'm just thrilled that it's finally out there. We've been working like little worker bees over here trying to get everything ready for this, and so that's why it's taken a little bit of time. MT, I don't trade options because I don't know. It's just never really been something I wanted to do. For me, they're a little too volatile. I initially wanted to just learn how stocks moved. I figured that if I could figure out the technical way that price moved, and if I could get good at that, then maybe later I can kind of fancy it up and start dabbling with something like that with options. But it's really never kind of attracted me. I know they kind of can be sexy, especially with some of the moves I have, but I don't know. There's just something about the linear moving, and for me, the predictability of just straight up stocks. And I make enough percentage that for me it works. And then I think I also kind of carve out a good niche here at Simpler Trading because I really do just trade stocks. So some of you who maybe options aren't really an attractive thing for you, or maybe you don't want the complexity or the different kind of risk, I think I fill that niche to where I just talk about stocks. Now you can obviously put options on top, but I think there's a good role for me, and I think a lot of people out there, maybe they want to just not have that kind of risk, and they want to be able to trade their, say, IRA and just put it in stocks, and that's where we can do that. Well, let's see. So Moxie is a momentum-based indicator. There's some magic in there that I've kind of worked on and figured out, but it's really nothing too complicated. It was just some really good insight that I had, and I had to keep going back and forth, trial and error, studying, figuring out what worked and compiling it together. Like as I said in the presentation, I had to figure out what didn't work in order for me to figure out what did work, and then I started putting them all together, and then I just had to find, a lot of it has to do with the way that it's displayed. An indicator is basically just a bunch of math, right? But they're all displayed in different ways. Like how do we represent that math? And for me, the stair steps are huge. That was the precision that I was talking about, because I had one teacher that was all about the MACD, and it was squiggly lines, and those lines maybe then had an arc. And then where did that line cross over the other line, and how sharp was that arc? And I was noticing that there was a lot that I was losing in the interpretation of these small, minute angles of a squiggly line, and it just wasn't working for me. So the stairs, basically the display of how the indicator looks, that's where a lot of the power is. And as I said, like a picture is worth 1,000 words. Those stair steps and the way that I represent and display the indicator are worth a lot of information. Yes, I do trade stocks over 20 bucks. I think Alta, I just gave a shot in Alta, and Alta was up in the hundreds. There was another one I was just looking at that was $200 and something. I really kind of like to stick to things that move, and things that move are generally under $100. Now, if I look at a stock and it's over $100, and a typical move or a typical swing move can be 10+%, I'll go there. I'm willing to go there. I just need to find stuff that moves pretty well, and sometimes, I guess more than often, something that is 150 or more, they don't have huge swings, And if they do, then I will be looking at it. But I need to find stuff that really moves. And so it comes down to more, what is the range of movement that I can get out of it? Like, what's that percent that I can get out of it? And I find that more frequent under $100. Plus, it's kind of, it doesn't really feel very fun to only be able to buy 10 shares and it costs $10,000. You know, it feels a little bit better to at least buy a few hundred shares and be like, okay, I got something here. All right, let me kind of keep taking a look at some of these. Yeah, don't let the kids play with fire. I mean, it's true. I'm here for you guys. I just want to make sure that you're all well equipped before we let you out. So that's all. Let's see, what percent of my account do I use to start on your entry? I typically break up my account into 10 portions, 10 slices. And I like to play a few trades when things are going. So I will have on average, like when the market's doing well, I'll have on average 5 to 7 trades. And so what that means is each trade gets one slice of my account, and I've divvied it up into 10. So any one trade has 10% of my account at risk. And then I leave those other 3 in case I see something extra special. I want to either double up on it, or maybe I'm going to take an extra little swing at it. But I think that's usually what's kind of worked for me. All right, let's see. Well, thank you. There's a lot of thank yous. So really appreciate it. This really feels great because that's what I've been here for. The one thing I'll tell you a little story. When I was a financial advisor with New York Life, I was really there because I wanted to help people learn, and I wanted to help them retire and make money and provide for their kids and save for college. And, you know, New York Life or financial life insurance, you know, what was it? We were kind of like a used car salesman, a snake oil salesman. And it was just a little bit hard to be in that role because I really was coming at it that I wanted to help people with their financial future. Yeah, I mean, yes, I had to make money as well and I had to have a living, but I was trying to provide the best service I could for people. And it was difficult because I was viewed as, you know, oh, you're just trying to make money off us. Like, no, I'm trying to make sure you're protected. I'm trying to make sure you have life insurance. I fully 100% believe in life insurance. Everybody around me that I know, like close in family, has life insurance because of me. And then I have several policies. Even my niece, she's 15 months old and she's got a life insurance policy. So I fully believe in it. And so now that I'm here and now that I'm helping people actually take charge of their own future and helping them make money and helping them do this, it just feels so much better to actually have people, you know, want what I'm selling. It's great. I have knowledge, I have skill, I have something that I can turn around, provide for other people and help them. And that's what I've really just trying to been doing in life and provide. And it feels great to see that people are very receptive to it. You know, I'm not selling life insurance anymore, but as I said, I fully believe in it and everyone around me has it. Let's see. Let's see. Is this tool being released for the first time? No, I have been using this for a long time. I've been tweaking it. Yes, making sure it's good and making sure I got that checklist and the rules. But those rules have been set in stone for now several years. Like going back to that example where I was trying to learn with my dad and another guy we were subscribed to, and he would change his rules or he would change his indicator and all this other stuff. And it was maddening because I was like, how are we supposed to do this? 2 weeks ago, he said we're supposed to look for these 3 dots to go green. And now he's saying we're looking for these 4 dots to go green and 1 to go yellow. Like, what? So it was just crazy. But no, I've been working on this stuff. It's good to go. I've had the rules printed out. I've been teaching this for years. It's all the same. And that's, honestly, I actually had another mentor said, at some point, I want trading to become boring for you. I want you to see the same thing over and over and be like, ho hum, Jan, okay, I'll go in on that because, you know, I've seen this before. That's what I want to show you. I want you to be able to read the matrix for yourself and start seeing these patterns that I see and start picking these out. I want you to see that trampoline move. I want you to see where these things start to respect these moving averages and how they just zip on up them. Like it'll really open your eyes, I think, to seeing and transitioning and reading charts. That's my whole point, is I want to be able to show you guys how to read charts and how to make money on your own with it. Because if you understand what you're seeing, Now you can understand where it's going to go and what it's doing, and you can make decisions with that. What did I fly? So I think when I was 2 or 3, my dad actually bought a 1980, I was born in 1985. My dad bought a 1986 Maul MX-7. So the brand is a Maul. And basically it's a bush plane, tail dragger, high wing. And I grew up in that airplane. We actually, when we go flying, I had to grab pillows from the sofa down the hall just so I could sit on 3 or 4 of them and be able to see over the dash when we finally got up in the air and level. I remember, I think it was maybe my kindergarten class, we were able to take field trips. And I asked my dad, I think maybe for my birthday or something, could I take my class to the airport? And he gave them all taxi rides. Like we put, I don't know, 5 kids because they could probably fit multiple kids in one seat back then. And he would just taxi around the airport a little bit. And I think that was my kindergarten birthday. And then in 1992, my dad had a Glasair 3. So if maybe you're familiar with that, it's a Glasair 3 built. It's a kit plane. We had help professionally building it because, you know, that's kind of a big project and my dad was busy working and everything. But it took 2 years to build. That thing is kind of like a Corvette of the skies. Retractable landing gear. It's got a Lycoming IO 540, 320 horsepower. It goes 220 miles an hour. It's fun. Yeah, we can get from Oshkosh, which is America's largest air show, back to here in less than a day. You know, between, I think maybe we stop usually for lunch one place over in cornfields. Let's see, Jim, does it work well in extended hours? Honestly, I've never really done that. One of my mentors did trade extended hours, or she would look at the overnight session to kind of figure out her scalp off the open trade. It was never quite me. As I said, day trading is not quite my thing. I like to do the end of day trading. I look at it sometimes. It does give good, like right now I'm looking at Amazon 15-minute with the overnight turned on, and there is information to be seen. I just haven't really gone there. I haven't really tested it out, but once it's in your hands, that's something that you can go and experiment with. And that's the whole point. It's really just a tool. And I've actually seen, you know, before I got to Simpler, I've seen other people take this and apply it to things that I don't apply it to, or things I don't trade. And this is why I wanted to get it out there and get it in your hands, because, you know, I've got my method and I've got the stocks I like to trade, or I got the types of things I like to trade, but there's more out there that you can do with this. It's a tool. It's a momentum tool, and it gives a lot of good insight, and it works on multiple time frames. You know, I'm not much of a 2-minute trader, but there's a lot of information down there, and that's what blows me away, honestly, when I started figuring this out, is that the rules that I've come up with for the methodology applies to basically any time frame. That I use the same moving averages on all the time frames, and the rules all still apply to those time frames. It's great. Futures, that is a little bit challenging. So it does work. What's problem is that there's a lot of noise, especially when you get from underneath the daily, because daily and above, it's all one day. It's all the same number of bars. What happens when you get into the hourly or the 30 or the 15, since futures trade 23 hours a day, there's just more noise. And so the indicator does work. It's harder for me because I don't trade futures. So, you know, I'm only talking from like what I've tried to even look at and study just so I can have this answer. There's just more noise because there's more hours in the day and there's more chatter. And then part of that chatter is really active because that's when the market's open. And then other that chatter is really kind of dead because it's after hours. So it's there. It's a tool. I have had people say, yes, it helps them. It doesn't. Futures are not my thing. There's just more noise. It's a little bit harder to pick out some of those things. And as far as currencies, that one I have looked into. And as with any stock, like some stocks are really choppy, some stocks are neurotic, some stocks move very well and smooth and flow, and the indicator responds really well to those. So the same thing goes with currencies. There are some currency pairs that go together very well, and they're very smooth, and they're predictable, and they respect moving averages. There are other currency pairs that are like on crack, and they buzz all over the place. They bounce around, and they're up and down, and they just have a lot of chatter to them. And those, while the indicator might be able to tell you some stuff, it's not my cup of tea. I need smooth stuff just for me and for my eye. But yes, they do work fairly well with currencies. And again, the rules apply. The one thing I think changes that, you know, I like my bread and butter to be the 50 SMA. Sometimes things like that, maybe the 200 SMA works better, but then you can still apply the same rules. Same kind of go with the futures. Rides without seatbelts. Yep, yep. Those are the days. Let's see. Robert, honestly, I'm not sure if I can even answer that. I don't think we have. I don't think we really have an understanding of, well, whose level of risk is all of this. I think it comes down to what vehicle do you want to trade, what method, what what's your risk parameter. I honestly am just not even sure how I can answer that. So I'm sorry that I can't really give you an honest feedback of the level of risk from everybody within here. All right, let me answer a couple more. Make sure I got everybody. Looks like things are doing pretty well. Mandy, Darrell, you guys have done a great job answering everybody, so I really do appreciate that. Yeah, looks like doing pretty well. So I think everybody's happy with the answers so far. Okay, here's one. PDD, why did I get out? Yeah, I forgot to actually say that PDD did so great. It went off the chart for the kind of scaling that I needed to have on that example that I showed. Sometimes it comes down to a personality thing. I get a little nervous when things just take off and keep going. Kind of like that IGC cannabis trade that was my best Moxie stock. Yeah, I get a little, they start going up too well and you're like, this is too good to be true. And then you just start freaking out a little bit. But that's where you got to stick to your rules and kind of be calm and patient with it and stick to your rules. But make sure you have your stop in place and have your parameters. So there you go. All righty, buddy. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And super excited to be seeing all of you on November 2nd, Saturday for the class. So thank you, everyone. Have a great night.